Hi everyone, it's Jay and I am back working with another one of these wood boards like I had in the last video. I have put some white gesso on it and then clear gesso on the top so I can apply some of my pastels because that helps give it that tooth needed. And this is one that another one of those from Hobby Lobby. They have it in two sizes, these cradled wood boards. The one I worked on yesterday was the square, and this is a small rectangle. And on these, they have the hooks here for landscape hanging. But I wanted to do a long, skinny picture because I have a lot of long, skinny spots in the house here and in my studio area that call for something like this instead of something like this. So I thought I would try some of these, and I moved the hook, the sawtooth hanger. I moved it to the top in the center so it would be ready to hang. And I have no idea for sure what I'm going to do, except for my mind is saying minimal, simple, sort of an abstract-y landscape, maybe. And I'm thinking of putting a horizon line on here to start with, of where I don't want to do it in the middle. I would do it way high or way low, and I like it kind of way low. And I'm just going to use this charcoal pencil and scribble in kind of a little land mass there, if you could call it that. And maybe even have some of this come down here. I'm already starting to think maybe this might be some water. I don't know. I just know it doesn't need to be real big. Now I've kind of left a little opening here. Right here. For maybe some, like where the water might be flowing. Not really sure. I'm going to try, just get a little water on my fingers here. And, no, heck, let's try this little stubby brush I used yesterday. This little angle brush that I've had for a long time. I'm just going to see if this will kind of move this charcoal around and maybe set it in place a little bit. Oh yeah, give it that darkness that I want on the horizon. And I'm not looking at anything to do this. This is just all made up. I'll rinse that off a little bit. Get a lot of water on there. And I don't want this to be quite as dark as up there. Maybe even move it some more. Actually, I've kind of lost my little opening there, so I'm going to see if I can get that back a little bit. Might need to use my trusty paper towel to try to get some of that off that middle section and wipe it back. Probably need a little bit more water there. Right there. this is off center. So we're going to cut this in. There we go. Cut that in that way. Cut this one in this way. And but I'm really feeling, oh yeah, that's much better. I'm really feeling kind of a minimal landscape of some sort. So now I'm working on taking back some of this, take some of this off. It's a little bit too dark down here. You can hear that scratchy sound. That's the, look at there. That's kind of cool already. You can hear that scratchy sound. That's the, what do you call it? The clear gesso. So I put the white gesso down, then the clear gesso, let that dry, then put the clear gesso on top of that, and that's been drying. So it's ready for pastel and obviously charcoal as well. And I have a technique that I learned several years ago, and I messed with it a little bit on some little bitty things. And I thought, oh, that's cool. I want to do more of that on, you know, a little bit bigger. And then I never got back to it. And it's a faux encaustic technique with some of the mediums here, or one of the mediums I have here. And I want to get this right and then try that on top of it. Now, it may be a big fat fail. You just never know. So at this point, I'm thinking, what other colors do I want in here? And I've got my pastels here. And I've got these bright turquoise blues that go with my December palette. But I'm really thinking about not having the bright in here. And then I've got my Inktense here. I've got the dark brown, a greenish color that matches that, and then the turquoise. So I'm thinking of staying away from the turquoise for this. And I'm going to take my liner brush. I need to move my water bucket a little closer here where I can get it. And I'm just going to try to get some on here and see. This is the dark Inktense. It's the brown. It's a really dark brown. I'm going to see if I can get it to drop on there and make some marks. Kind of bring it around with my liner brush. I just kind of guide it on that side, and then let's do some, oops, let's do some over here. I just apply a little water to the bottom of the brush. And of course, some of it flicks off and makes kind of a mess. I'm going right over the charcoal with that. And then I can add more water if I want to. But the less water you have, the darker the Inktense will stay. But I want to see if I can maybe add a little water and get some drips going on here on this bottom part. And as it gets to the very bottom, I can tilt it either way. I'm going to add some more. I've lost a lot of the dark brown here, so I'm going to bring some back in. I'm going to try. I'm trying not to flick it off of the block. It's making spots. You know, when I flick it, if I do it too hard, it flicks some off and makes the speckles, which I really didn't want on this one, but and I can guide some of this down where I want it. Let's see if I can if I can hang on to my brush. I really need my other water thing. Just lighten some of these up. Let me see if I can get any movement here. Now, of course, it's pooling down here at the bottom, but I just take my trusty paper towel and can dab that right off. And Inktense will still move if you get it when it's wet. Once it's dry, it won't move anymore. Dab some in here and create a little texture in there. There. Okay, I kind of like that. Now that has to dry a minute. I'm thinking about bringing some of the, what did I do with my brush? Lost it. Oh, here it is. Bringing some of this green in here. I don't know how that will do. I'm just gonna tap in here a little bit. Just get it right off the block with the liner brush. Uh-oh, more speckles. Yeah, I kind of like that green in there, in where the water area may be. Probably need some in the trees too. I'm just dabbing it around until I kind of like the way it looks. Let me see if I can get some up here in this tree area as well. Probably won't see it because it's going on top of that dark brown and charcoal. But you may see it. I can just dab this right on here too. And of course, this will probably all change by the time I'm done. I want to see if I can get this to move just a little bit. And kind of work its way down. Get some more of that to move there. Ooh, maybe a little too much. And this one's going pretty good. I love the drips. Oh, that right there looks really nice. I need to stop while I'm ahead, but I do want to get some of this off right here. And I don't mind if it goes over the sides. Oh, isn't that pretty, that green? And I want to integrate some of that green into the sky with the pastel. And these two colors is what I want to use. I also have the brown here, but this, I really needed the brown to be super dark. And so I chose the Inktense for that. But I'm thinking maybe in some of the sky, this would be some of the sky background, and then the creamy color would be the foreground, along with some white paint to give it that matte finish. I don't know. I'm going to try a little bit up here on the corners. Just apply some up here on these two corners, and maybe work some of it down this way. I don't want a whole lot of this in the sky. I just want some of it there. In the sky. Maybe work my magic with some clouds on here. Maybe. Now I need to see if this can move without this moving. I'll put those right there. So I'm going to hold the side of the box and just use my fingers to try to work some of this in. See, it's got some good texture from the clear gesso. Now, I know this looks super dark right now, but don't worry, it's going to change. Remember, if you watched yesterday's video, which you probably haven't yet, but you need to, but I did a little experiment in there with what happens when you add different mediums to this. Of course, my hands get pretty dirty when I do that, and that looks pretty dark. Let me pull up my card here from yesterday. Remember, when we add white gesso to this pastel after it's on the board, it really lightens it up. And so this will get lighter. But I just wanted to try to blend some of it myself before I get to that stage of using the white gesso. So now that I've got some of that lovely green in there, and it's a little different shade than this I'm seeing. So obviously I need to tone that way down. So I'm using this cream color here. And I'm going to go right over it. Oh, that sound I know is probably aggravating you. Does sound pretty rough. All right, now let me take my fingers again. Let me clean them off first a little bit and try to blend this in. You know, I've worked with pastels a long time, and they really are the most beautiful medium. And I taught a class on this. It's on Skillshare on painting big skies in soft pastel. And it just really is so fun. And I'll blend it with my fingers. I'll blend it with some tools I have. But it's just, I just really, really like it. Let me clean my fingers off before I come back to this. I'm just dipping them in water and wiping them off. Before I come back to this light area here. I'm even gonna, this is still a little wet. I don't want to add any there yet, it's too wet. And I'm probably going to paint the sides in a combination of the acrylics here. And I'm going to blow this pastel off just to make sure if there's any loose particles. Then I'm going to get this area where it's mostly just cream. And I don't even know what color that is. It's not cream. It just reminds me of cream. And I know it still looks super duper dark, which it will, till I add the white acrylic to it. which I'm going to do now. I'm going to put those up there. And I need to decide what brush I want to use to do this. And I also need a little tray for my... Actually, I'm going to not add white acrylic. I'm going to add white acrylic gesso. May just use a... I don't know if that's too small. I could use one of my Filberts over here. Let me reach for one. They're long though. They're for mostly painting on canvas. But these are wonderful brushes. But I can try it. I'm going to try to put a little gesso here in this tray. And I'm probably going to have to add some more, so I might as well just leave that open. I'm going to start with the lighter area. And of course, I'm holding it way down low because I'm sitting very close. And I'm going to try to just work this in circular motion. Work this acrylic in here, blending it with the pastels. And then this will set it. That's working pretty good. I'm just trying to stay in the lightest areas first. Before I move into the darker areas. There's a little light area right there. Because once I move to the darker areas, it's all going to start blending. And once this dries, it will set. And once it sets, yeah, once it sets, it's not moving off this board. Now I can start moving some of this to the... It's hard with this big brush, but it keeps it looser for sure. All right, let's work our way up. And I try to work an area pretty fast because this dries very quick. And my board is rocking a little because of that hook on it. But all this is doing now is blending that white gesso with the pastel that's on the board and setting it. So it will not come off on your hands. Once it's dry. I'm really scrubbing it in there to get it blended. And if it's not blended enough, I'll add some more. But notice how that sky has really lightened up from where it was. And it's going to get even lighter because I'm going to add some more. I'm just doing little circles. And then some other brush marks here and there to create interest. And I can leave some of this gesso relatively thick to make clouds. That's not coming off now. Oh yeah, that's looking good. That is looking good. I think I need some more here. And now I'm not scrubbing quite as hard. Still working on this the lighter areas. Blend those a little bit better. And notice I've scooted my hand way back down on this brush. If I had this on the easel, I would be holding it far back. And if I had this wood stabilized a little bit better, I would be holding it much farther back than I am. Ooh, I like that. It's got those two colors embedded in there now. But now I want to do some clouds where I actually leave some of the white. So I'm going to work on some of that. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Just wherever it's a little harsh and you want to blend it out, work on it a little more and even pull down and away. And let's get, and the thicker you leave it, the more it will look like a cloud on the white rim of the clouds. Then if you don't like your cloud, just blend it out. I don't like the mark. Oops, I don't want to touch my landscape with it too much, my horizon area. I'm going for I'm using the very tip of the brush now, down here close to the horizon line. I'm going for a very moody, wintry looking landscape. And if at any time something doesn't look quite right and you need to maybe add a little water, you can do that. That'll actually help soften some of it up a little bit even more. That looks pretty good. And once it gets dry, if you wanted to add in some more pastel in there, you can. And when you add the white gesso, it changes its color. But you can add pastel to, say, give a little punch to an area and darken an area, and then it will stay clear if you add matte medium, I mean. I gotta get this liner brush out of here and clean off this filbert because it's got a mix of gesso and pastel in it now. These are my really good brushes. I gotta take care of them. Now, let's see here. That's looking like a nice little moody landscape there. Do I want to try to bring some of this pastel in somewhere? I don't know. Let me just try a little right here where it's not real cut into those clouds a little bit. Just try a little bit. And I can use my little scrubby brush with some clear matte medium in there if I want to. I think, though, I want to blend it a little bit first. Just to kind of wash that color around a little bit. That may work pretty good. I might want to add that in another area. In between some of these. And over this way. I'm just very gently blending it with my finger. I'm not pushing very hard at all until I get out to the edge here. And I want to bring it into some of these other areas. See what that, I always have to hold it back. It's kind of pretty. Might need that in one other spot. I like to do things in three spots. Could do some more right there. I don't know why I like to do 3 areas, but I do. Maybe carry this one up this way a little bit. Further blend that out. That may be getting a little strong now. I was going to use the matte medium, but excuse me, now I'm thinking about what? Yeah, let's see. Where's my matte medium? Need another tray for that. Maybe don't need a whole lot of it. I'm going to use this little scrubby brush. Just dip it in the matte medium. And I'm not going to stir it up too much. I'm just coating it. The matte medium is white when it goes on, but it will dry clear. It might have a little bit of a lightening effect to it, but it'll dry pretty clear. Just touching all those areas, just kind of doing it on its side and very gently. And actually come up here with it too. Oops, almost got in the white paint there. Now this one looks like it might be a little strong. So I'll put some here and then maybe come back after it with the white in through there. Same brush. The whole thing is just making sure it's sealed. So that's why I want to go over it a little bit with everything. Now that's toned it down some, but remember it's going to dry clear. And I'm almost thinking, because we have these clouds in the sky like this, in this shade, I also think we need to have some down here in the water area. And I think it's maybe dry enough now where I can integrate a little bit of that. And this one I don't want to blend too much, I just want to soften it. down here in the water. This one I may blend a little more. Well, I guess I am blending it a little. I'm going in the direction I put it though. I'm not rubbing it all over. Now let's get I'm going to try a little of the matte medium on this. And a little bit of the white in there as well. The white gesso. And the white gesso is nowhere near as strong as, say, titanium white. So keep that in mind. If you really want a bright white, the titanium white is the way to go. Now let's see. That may be working out pretty good. I probably need to let that top dry. Let this dry good and then see what else I want to do to it. I may want to add some more white in these clouds. Maybe if I go ahead and paint the sides, I can look at it from different angles and evaluate that, because I blended this a little more than I did this. I think there might need to be a little bit more white in those clouds to tone that down. So I'm going to let that dry first before... No, I'm not, because if I let it dry... Decisions. If I let it dry too much, first, the white won't blend with it. So I'm just going to get the filbert. This is a number 10 filbert, and I'm just dipping it in the gesso, getting a little bit on the side, and I'm actually going to hold it like this. And work some of that white in there and go over it very lightly to kind of make it look foggy. So I'm not really dipping it in very much at all. Just enough to add a little more white in some of these areas. Basically just tapping it flat in the dish and then painting on a side. Very, very gently to help blend it with that cream color a little bit better. That's much better, I think. I have a little spot right here. I want to bring in some white. A little stronger. And this spot up here is kind of bugging me. So I'm going to add a little more white up here on the top. And I'm actually going to dip my finger in a little bit of that water, tap some of that to loosen that up. There we go. It dries very, very fast when you're blending the white gesso with the pastel. All right, that looks good. Now I'm going to take a little tip of this white on the bottom of the brush there. White gesso. And I'm going to hold this away from me so I can kind of see. Maybe bring some of this in here. And you can always use a finger to pull it back off, or use a paper towel to dab and get a little texture in there. Give the impression of water down here. This brush is probably too big for this board. I think I need some. I may need to come back with a palette knife and some paint on that to get a few more defined lines in there. But right now, I think I want to work on the sides. And that's going to be super easy because I'm going to use this, what am I going to use? I'm going to use the jar I've made for the December palette with lots of titanium white and a little Titan Buff, which is a cream color, like that. But the base is going to be this one, Titan Buff Neutral Gray 5 and a little white. Makes that nice warm gray. Those two colors go real good together. So I'm going to use my flat brush, and I'm just going to try to keep my hands off the top. And actually, yeah, I'm going to use this brush. I'm going to just very lightly do it on the sides with just a little bit on the brush at a time. I'm not trying to cover the whole side. I'm trying to dry brush it with kind of a distressed look. I'm not worried about it getting every little bit of the sides covered. See how it's got the streaks in there? I'm going to go back over that with the cream. And I'm just going to work my way around just a little bit on that brush. Very lightly. This color matches, almost matches that cream color of the pastel that's in there. Whatever color that is. It's a unison, and I don't know the color name. It's on the, there's probably a number on it. Seriously, I bought these pastels years ago, and they last forever, most of them. And I love working with them. And the only thing I don't love is having to frame everything. Framing has gotten insanely expensive, especially if you want a really nice frame for your work. And here, oh, I have them all here displayed, but I've had them at my booth. The originals, they just don't sell here. So I wanted a way to integrate my pastels into some non-framed, which automatically lowers the price, non-framed work that I might be able to complete faster and still utilize the pastels, maybe not to the full extent as I do on paper, to create those kind of masterpieces, but to create some nice art pieces. Now I'm going to dip this right into the cream, or it's not a cream, it is kind of a cream, but I'm just going to gently apply some of that right over what I've already applied, kind of with a distressed, real light dry brushing technique. These boards are great for that. They paint up really well. I like the color of them that they are. See, I have quite a bit more on there than I wanted, but I'm dragging it real lightly to give it kind of a streaky look and not put it all, not coat it like I'm coating the whole piece. Some of the natural wood may show through. It dries faster, but I really like these little boards for this. Got a little too much on that one. But the little boards, they're not expensive at all. I can tell you what the price said on this one from Hobby Lobby. $6.49. And I can tell you also that I did not pay that, because when I go buy them, they're 40% off. You know, the stuff at Hobby Lobby, I think it, at least the way it used to be, it goes on sale every other week. So if the wood items aren't on sale this week, they'll be on sale next week. Same with frames. See, it gives it kind of a dry brushed look. Nothing too fancy. Staying in correlation with the fact it's on wood, because it looks kind of like it's got grain in it. You might actually see some of the wood. I only put one coat of gesso on the sides because I knew I was going to do this, and that wood color goes real well with these colors. So, sides are done. I was wondering if maybe I should bring a little palette knife stuff in here along this area right in here. I don't know, I don't want to mess it up, but it's mostly dry. I'm just going to get a little bit on the, I just want a little hint of light in there. There we go. Oh, kind of lost that one. I like seeing it messed up. And then I'm not sure if I like this. I cut back into that a little bit with that palette knife. Maybe even soften that edge a little bit. Well, this one too. Let's pull it out some. Right, let me try a little bit more. It kind of gives the impression of the water is maybe making some little waves here. Oops. There we go. Oh, I like that. I'm going to stop messing with it right now before I screw something up. So now, what needs to happen? Well, what needs to happen now is this needs to completely dry, this top part, which won't take long, except for where I got that palette knife area there a little thick. Might take a few minutes for that, but it will. Once it's dry, I'm going to try this encaustic look on the top of it, because here's what I want. I want this to look wintry, foggy, and misty, like it's kind of ethereal. And here I am touching the sides and get more paint on me. To do that, I'm going to use this Liquitex Matte Super Heavy Gel. It is very thick and it is white. And I'm going to spread that like cake icing across the top, and then that will have to dry. And it should have a slight foggy look. If it's not foggy enough, I will do another coat, and then that has to dry. But it has to totally dry, the first layer of this, before I could apply a second layer to see if it's going to have the right effect. You can't put it on super thick and have it dry correctly. If you do a thin layer and then wait till it's dry and then do a second thin layer, maybe even a third, that's what gives it that encaustic look. And you can cut into it after it's all dry and stain those areas. I don't think I'm going to do that with this one, but you never know. So I've got my gel ready to go. I just have to get this good and dry. So I'm going to put a fan on it while I clean up my dishes here. I'm going to put a fan on this and get it good and dry, and then come back and we're going to try to fancy it up a little bit more. So I will be back. Okay, I have switched gears a little bit. I was going to use this one, and I forgot I have this one. And I think this is a little bit thicker gel matte than this brand. And it looks a little different consistency too. I mean, that's pretty thick, but I think it would take a couple coats of this, where I believe this golden one may be a little better choice. I've had to stir it up. It's been sitting a while, and it's really, really thick feeling. And I have a huge palette knife here, this one. And I'm going to spread it like cake icing across the top. I'm going to try to. And this is scary, because if it doesn't work right, I'm going to be disappointed, because I think this turned out really great. I do have a wet paper towel handy in case I really screw something up. But you see how thick that is? That's not going anywhere. But I'm going to try it. I'm going to start at the top and spread it like cake icing. Try to get all the way to the edges. It's got quite a few little bubbles in it. But it's probably because I have less on there. I'm going to save this bottom part till last. And I'm trying not to drag it on the actual paint itself. I'm trying to just glide it across, and it's so thick. That little spot right there is super thick. That may be a little too thick. I might have to really drag that one. The paper towel will be handy for getting it off the edges too. But with this, being so thick, my thinking was that it might only take one coat. Maybe. And if it gets a little goopy on there, scrape it off and go back over it, because that can make some of those little marks in the material that you may or may not want. I want to try to get it as smooth as possible. And it is like icing a cake in a way. I think I need some more down here on this end. It's been a while since I've used this one. I think I've only used this one once, which is why I kind of had to stir it up. And it's white right now, but it should dry clear. I'm going to scrape some of that extra off. I could apply a little bit of water if I wanted to help it glide a little bit better. And it's really hard to get it where it's not going to have some kind of marks. Better to keep scraping it to avoid any little bits. See, it's got these marks in it. That's just going to be hard to avoid. Go along the edges, get that excess off. Let's see if I can. I'm just going to dip it in a little water. And see. Oh. See what that does, if that helps it. It does help smooth it out to dip it in a little water. I still need a little bit down here on this corner. Let's see if I can pick up just a little. Turn this around. There we go. Really does help to scrape it off as you go. And just keep working it until you feel it's pretty good. And of course you can change direction and go the other way. But I worry about, I like to keep things going the same way as the image. Let me get the edges a little bit. still feel I got a little stuff on there. Get some stuff on it. Knock that off. This edge here, and this is a little slim. I'm going to put a little there and a little here. And see if I can get that covered a little better. Now I got lines in it again there. I'm going to add some more water on it. Just dipping it in the water. Not really adding water, just getting the tool wet. Just see if I can. Uh-oh. Now you see what happens when you try to go too fast. I should have quit while I was ahead, shouldn't I? It's a process. It's a learning process. You know, a little bit right there on that edge. Scraping off the extra. I'm not real happy with this. So I'm just going to try to skim over that just a little. Pretty happy with the rest of it at this point. So I'm going to dunk this tool in the water. I needed more water in there. Don't really have enough. Actually, I'm going to scrape the jar, get that off the edge the best I can. I have a little piece right here that's got some debris in it. So I'm just knock that off in the trash can. Just trying to get it away from the edge of the jar. All right. Let's dunk that in the water some more. I'm going to take my wet paper towel and just very carefully go along the edge, and you can even use your fingers a little bit. See, this edge has quite a bit. It doesn't matter. And in reality, I probably should do the edges anyway. But I think it'll be fine. Now it just needs to dry. I'm going to go around the edge of the jar because this jar, once it seals, once it closes, like any other paint jars, it can be really hard to open back up. But we're going to see if this golden high solid gel mat works with just one coat or not. But it's supposed to look like encaustic when it's done. And like I said, it may need another coat. And this just has to dry naturally. So if it does still look too clear, I want it to have the foggy look, like kind of like it's underwater, or behind clouds or something. If it dries too clear, I will put another coat of this on. I probably won't video that. If it dries the way I want, then I'll just come back and show that rather than put another coat on. This may be sufficient, but it just has to dry, and it will turn. It's white now, but you can see some areas are thicker than others in here. I don't know if you can see that. You can see this little spot down here is thinner. These little areas here are thicker. So the areas where it's thicker is going to take longer to dry. And it just has to do it naturally. So I'll just have to wait and then come back and see if I need to add another coat or not. So now it's just a matter of having a little patience. So we'll let it dry completely, and I'll let you know when I come back if I had to add a second coat. Okay, everyone, it is the next day, and disregard that for right now. But this has dried really well. It's dry to the touch. It has given it that milky, misty, ethereal look that I like. It's not quite all the way clear yet. This part here was thinner, and so this is more clear than, say, this part, which was a little thicker. But this will clear up, but it will never be super clear like a gloss gel. And once again, what I used is this Golden High Solid Gel Matte. If it was a gloss gel, it would really pop with some color, but I didn't want that. I like doing these landscapes like this and having an ethereal, misty kind of look. This area right here is where it's kind of gooped on there the thickest. I don't know if you can see right there, that just is a little thicker, so that will probably be the last area to clear up. And it probably takes a little while as things evaporate to really get good and clear. But I'm really happy with the way this has progressed in the last 18 hours. This is an excellent choice to get a encaustic look with one coat. And, you know, when I put it on, it was a little bit rough in spots from me not keeping the palette knife, which this is the knife I used, me not keeping it cleaned off enough. So I think a wet rag with wiping it off between swipes would definitely help. But I'm going to try something else on this little scratch board I have here that I don't know what I was doing on this, but it's just a scrap piece. And I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to try something to get a little bit of a smoother finish. I'm going to try it. So I'm going to put this aside so it won't get messed up. But I'm real happy with this. There was a few rough edges here, which I just took a little sandpaper and sanded those this morning, like a few minutes ago. So as this continues to dry, I'll keep an eye on it. But right now, I am really pleased with the look I'm getting out of this. And what I'm really pleased with is I was able to use pastels on here and then coat it with this, and now I can touch it. Anybody can touch it. It feels really cool. I do like the texture that I ended up with in this, but some people may not like that. But that's all related to the tool and how clean the tool is. And so I'm going to try it on this piece just as a test. And I'm going to use my regular palette knife just to get it on here. And then I'm going to use the catalyst wedge to try to smooth it out, but I'm also going to spray a little water on it. Now I got to get this jar back open. But I really like this stuff. This is some pretty heavy duty stuff. And I like the one coat ability. I really like that. So you can see how heavy this is. I'm just going to start smoothing it on like cake icing. And of course, if you do a thinner application, you might need more than one coat. But I did it very thick on purpose on that one. I'm going to try to get it thick on this one, but it takes a little more with this because this is a smaller palette knife. I'm going to try to get it really, really thick on here. And of course, you can see the lines, which that's part of the interest to me. Now, the one that's dried, or not dried completely, but drier than this, once it's dried, you can scratch into it and make some marks. I don't want to on that particular piece, but if you were doing a more, a piece with a more distressed look, you might want to do that. Scratch into it. You can even let it have ridges like this if you want to. But on the landscapes like that, I really like a smooth finish with a little bit of texture. I just don't want a whole lot of texture. And then I'll just go around the edges and get that excess off. And if I don't get all of it off, you can sand it like I did on the other one. Okay, let's dip that in the water. And now you see I hope you can see, let me zoom in a little for you. The lines in there where the palette knife left that texture. So I'm going to try to smooth it out a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, using my fine mister, kind of at a distance, spray a little bit on there. And then with the catalyst wedge, let's see if I can smooth out that even more. It's working a little bit to help knock down some of that texture, but it's also taking off more of the medium. In this particular area, I got a little too much spray there. Yeah, that's probably not a good idea right there. Putting that back on. I'm just going to smooth it some more. It'll take off some of the excess for sure. But I was just trying to see if it would get a little bit smoother. And other than that one corner right there being just too wet because I sprayed a little too much, it's done pretty good. There's some texture still in here, but I keep doing it and I probably shouldn't. See how much I've taken off? Let's put some of that back on. There we go. That's a little better. And I still have some right here. And I'm not pressing hard, I'm just gently trying to glide it. And I'm gonna have to just scrape some of that back off. Now I'm going to do very lightly, just to smooth it a little bit more. I'm taking a lot of it off, but it is quite a bit smoother than what it was. And of course, I just touched my finger in it. And if you don't go from one end to the other, it's hard to not make a mark in it. And once again, this side right here, where I got too much water on there, it's very hard to not lay this down too heavy. And you just kind of have to work with your tool and try to keep the tool a little bit cleaner. There. I mean, it still has a few little marks, but not near as much as it had to begin with. So this is just a test, though, on this. This is not a piece I'm doing anything with. And I saved these pieces like this in case I want to test something. Pieces that I messed up on. But it does have a lot less textural stuff in it now than it did. And if you don't want to have to sand the edges, you can take a little piece of paper towel, damp paper towel, and if you can pick it up and try to stay away from the top. Of course, that pushed some of it back to the top. You can try to take off those little bits that might be sticking out a little too much, which I messed that up right there, but I can just kind of pick it up with the paper towel. And if you wanted to add specific texture into the medium, you could do that as well at this point. Like if you had a crinkled up piece of paper and you wanted some textural marks, you could do that. You can also take your finger and just knock down those little rough spots that might be around the edge so you don't have to sand them later. Now this does not have as thick a coat as the other one because I really piled it on the other one. I wanted it to have a more misty appearance, so I really piled it on. And I don't know if you can see the texture now that I've got it zoomed in here that's in there, which I don't mind because I think that feels neat when you rub your hand across it. But I just wanted to see how to try to get a smoother texture. And I think adding a tiny bit of water helps, or maybe even just dipping the tool, like the catalyst wedge, into water and then gliding it across might help smooth it out better than actually spraying it, because spraying it actually made some of it go a little thinner than I intended. So next time I try this, I'll try just dipping the wedge in the water and shaking it off and then pulling it gently across to smooth it. Now obviously with a big piece, like a big canvas board, not canvas board, but a big, you know, a large piece, a large cradle board. That's what I meant to say. Obviously, if I was doing one of those, these smaller tools are not going to reach the whole size of the board like the catalyst wedge about got this one, and this would almost get it. So in that case, the tool to use is a squeegee. And once again, apply it however you want with whatever tool you got. But then the squeegee dipped in water instead of the catalyst wedge, because the squeegee you can get a lot more coverage depending on how big your squeegee is. Now I've got one that's about this big over here. And that would be what I would use on a bigger piece to try to smooth out some of this on top. What I have not tried, because I haven't really used this material a whole lot, what I haven't tried is maybe wet sanding some of it down. I would try it on a scratch piece first. Like, let's say I did not like the feel of this texture in here. I don't mind it, but let's say I want it to be completely smooth. I wonder if it could be wet sanded down somewhat to help smooth it out like you can with other types of projects. I don't mind the texture in mine, so I'm not going to do that. And I really like the way this is looking. And I think as it dries even more clear, I'm just going to really love it. And it's a great use for these cradle boards. And these, like I said, these are from Hobby Lobby. And they only come, with the hooks, they only come in 2 sizes. Which that's why I bought them, because I didn't want to fool with the hooks. But it's not really a big deal to put a sawtooth hook on the back of a cradle board. Now, on a big cradle board panel, if I was doing a large piece, I would probably mount that with wire hooks on each side and then wire. But the cradle boards are lightweight, and that's what I like about them. But these from Hobby Lobby I've had here in my stash for a little while, and I thought I would try to use them. And they're only in 2 sizes, a square one and then this landscape one. And I moved the hook from where it was to over here because I wanted my landscape to be vertical. I have several small spaces where I can hang vertical landscapes. And now that I've done this, I really want to do more of these for my booth. I don't know that they would sell, but I know I have a lot less time in them and a lot less expense in them because of the way I use the mediums directly on the board. And so I would like to do some more of these. I'm going to have to see if I can find maybe some larger boards to work on. I don't have any here. I just have this size and the square. And I could try some of those first. But another idea would be to integrate a bird or an animal into, quote, whatever abstract scene I create. And I may work on that on the next one I do. And, you know, see how that goes. But anyway, that's it for this video using the December palette that I've been using here. And in this piece, I strictly stuck with these colors on this side. And did not use the brighter blues and turquoise on this side. So I think I matched up really good there with that. And I really enjoyed it, and I really like the way this is turning out. So I think I'm going to do some more of these very shortly. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy playing with this high solid gel matte from Golden to get a faux encaustic look. If this is a little too thick for you, and I'm sure I don't remember how much it cost. I ordered it from Blick, I think. But the other gel mediums, they have a matte heavy gel, which is less heavy than this. Liquitex has some. Golden probably does too. Liquitex is very easy to find. But they have a matte heavy gel, which is less heavy than this, but still pretty substantial. But it may need 2 coats to get to what this took with 1 coat. Then they have just a regular matte gel, which is even thinner. And then they have the fluid matte medium. Now, I have used the fluid matte medium to actually pour over a piece and let it go over the edges, which is kind of like pouring liquid icing, you know, on a cake to make it drip down the sides. That I didn't really care for. It got bubbles in it and things like that. I prefer the actual gel instead of the just straight liquid matte medium. However, doing a small piece, like a small piece on a miniature or even on paper, the matte gel medium works very well for that. But on the boards, I prefer the heavier gels. So you could experiment with whatever gel you have, if you have one or have handy to get that's in your budget. You could experiment with all of them. But this one, the High Solid Gel Matte by Golden, is the one I really like to do this in one pass. Because now this piece is done. I can set this aside. Yes, it will probably clear up some more over the next 24, 48 hours. And that's fine, because I'm not in any rush to do anything with this. But I don't have to do anything else to it at this point. I did want to mention, when people do the faux encaustic with the acrylic mediums, a lot of times they will tint the gel just a little bit. There's a few colors out there, like I think one's called Interference Gold, that will tint the color of the gel just a little bit to give it more of an aged look or a different kind of look. I wanted my painting that's underneath to be what showed through. I didn't want to alter the colors of it. But you can definitely do that with these as well. But it's like a very minor little teeny bit that you mix in with it before you use it to make that happen. So you might want to experiment with that if you want an aged look. Experiment with tinting it just a tad. I liked this the way it is. I had a vision with the painting, the colors that I wanted for the December palette, and I liked it the way it is. So I did not do that. I just used it straight. And it should show the colors back the way they were as it dries. So, as always, thanks for watching. I hope you've gotten something useful out of this. And we'll have fun experimenting with your own faux encaustic pieces on cradle board or gesso board. You guys have a great day and have fun.